How would I describe Steve Peat to someone who knows nothing about it? He's one of the world's best downhill racers ever. A pioneer for the British mountain bike scene. Fun-loving party animal and a businessman. During his racing career, he launched Royal Racing, the clothing brand, and more recently Peaty's, billed as performance products designed in the UK by world champion biker Steve Peat.
Explaining him in one sentence is not easy.
That's a good one.
Definitely like an oversized character, isn't he? He's obviously a big lad, and then just with the confidence in his aura, he's just like a big scary cartoon character that's not scary. Do you know what I mean? Like he's a superhero cartoon character, isn't he?
A gentle giant. What I've seen. He's always got attention around him, and he takes the time out for everybody, you know. And I always thought he's a great role model. The fun and the professionalism and the business. I think that's what's really gave him longevity. And he's just a likable guy, you know. You can see why people want to be around him. He's got time for everybody, and he's also interested in you as well, you know. So that's what I always liked about Steve, you know.
I'm here in Sheffield, the north of England, to catch up with Steve about his racing career and talk about how he manages to run successful businesses, as well as still being heavily involved in downhill racing as the head coach of the Santa Cruz Syndicate.
My World Cup career was probably... I went to World Championships before I actually started racing World Cup, so did one in 94, 95 was my first full season, so what was that? I retired in 2016, so it's 21, 22 years.
Probably as long as anyone's really raced at the highest level, I guess. Minar stands out, I suppose, but not many people hang around for that long in World Cup downhill.
No, not really. I think Minar's probably passed me a little bit now, but I think he did. He started later and he's still going now, so yeah. In my early days of my career, I just took every race as it came. I sort of went to every weekend, just like, oh, this is really fun. I'm traveling with my mates, I'm racing mountain bikes, I'm getting sponsored, I'm winning races. It was just fun, and I was just ticking it off. When I got the second place in 1996 at Panticosa in Spain, that sort of ignited a little bit of a fire as to be like, I just got second here. I could probably win one of these things one day. I feel really thankful for getting into mountain biking, basically. I loved it. It was my hobby, and it did turn into a job, obviously, at some point. But yeah, like I said before, I was taking every weekend as it came, getting sponsorship, getting bikes, getting money eventually. But yeah, I'm just a local lad from Sheffield, from Chapeltown in Sheffield, and like I still love hanging out with my mates. So I think a big part of it for me was hanging out with my mates every weekend, having a laugh. Whether you'd done good or bad, you still went for a few beers afterwards and had a bit of a party and enjoyed life, basically. At the end of the year, we raced World Champs in Cairns, and I had quite a few teams approach me there. There was like Trek and Gary Fisher and GT, and I'd not been on much money. I was on MBUK GT the year before, probably on about 10 grand, I think. And I said to Palmer, like, oh, I've got these big deals. Like, what? Like, how much should I ask for? Like, double what I'm on now, sort of thing. He was like, no way, P. You need to ask for $100,000. I was like, there's no way I can go in there and ask for that. He's like, P, just look them in the eyes and think of me and ask for that amount of money. And I actually did it. I went into these meetings, and I was quite shy at that stage in my life, really. I was quite shy when I was younger. And I went into these meetings, and then when they asked about the money side of it, I was just like, yeah, $100,000, please. Like, and I felt so embarrassed doing it. But GT was the one that I wanted to ride for, and they didn't give me that amount of money. They came back with an offer that was less, but I snatched their hand off because that was the team that I wanted to ride for. I mean, I must just say that the dollar to pound ratio back then was about 2-1, so it wasn't as much money as it sounded. But yeah, I think Palmer asked for those big amounts of money so he could go and buy more Cadillacs and have parties at weekend and just have fun with his life. Hanging out with him was some of the best years. There'd be me, Kurt Voorhees, Randy Lawrence, Rob Warner, and we just had a laugh. Although we were racing and we were serious and we trained hard, we enjoyed ourselves to the max as well. Going to California for me was to get out of the British kind of winter, go to somewhere where you didn't have to clean your bike every day or like be out in the rain and that, just be a bit more consistent training through that sort of time. GT were also in Southern California, so that was like quite easy for me to... I think when I first went there, I went there in 97. I just signed for GT. Mike King was a teammate, and I'd been talking to Mike, and he actually said, oh, if you want to come to San Diego, come and stay for a month or two. So that was start of 97. I went and stayed with Mike King and realised how pro he was. Like, he'd come from BMX, and they were all like gym training, like really hard. So I could do all that training, and I did build up over the years, but at the same time, it made me realise training was a massive part of it. So that was the 97 season. 97 was a good season for me. I was still mega fit and good, but after that, I'd learned that I needed to be like in California to get myself away from everything at Sheffield and going out with my mates at weekends and the weather and the rain and all that sort of stuff, and just being able to be a lot more consistent with training and ticking everything off. So 97 was San Diego. 98, I decided to go to Huntington Beach. There was a couple of BMX mates there that I could go to. Sheep Hills Dirt Jumps were just down the road. You could drive to Laguna Beach. You could drive up to Big Bear, like all within a couple of hours, basically. Gold's Gym was just around the corner. We'd be in there every day. But at the same time, I've always been a bit like, if I have a solid day training, I like to celebrate. So it's a bit of a downfall maybe, but yeah, we did train hard. We lived right next to a bunch of AA pro BMXers in America that were obviously training the best. There was a lot of money in BMX at that time, so those guys were really professional and really pro about the training and everything. There was a couple of them that I was good mates with that would love to have a drink and stuff like that with me. Some UK guys that lived out there. So yeah, we'd always have a good day training or a good weekend racing, and then celebrate, have a couple of days on the piss.
SoCal was the place to be for BMX, with Sheep Hills, with the Orange YMCA track. And a lot of the industry was there as well. So you got a lot of guys from, England. There was guys like myself, Neil Wood, Jamie Staff that made the full move. You had a lot of top of the French guys. There were some of the fastest guys in the world at the time. Thomas Allier that rode for GT, Christophe Levesque that was a son and then went on to Specialized. And so it kind of really was the hub for BMX racing for the pros. And then you'd get a lot of the European guys that would come out during the winter time. And then obviously that branched off to a lot of the mountain bikes and a lot of you guys coming out as well. So it really was bike heaven during those mid-90s, moving into the 2000s. It was just a great place to be and ride a bike, Steve actually got on GT when I was already on GT, and he's like, hey, I'm coming out to SoCal for the winter. So he came and stayed with me and Todd Lyons for a couple of days. And then I kind of introduced Steve to a lot of the BMX guys. I think Mike King was a GT guy at the same time, so we kind of knew that crew. And all the BMXers loved Steve, He really was. He was a celebrity to us as well, because he brought in the fun, you know, professionalism but fun, and just everybody gravitated towards him. All the GTBMX team loved him, and yeah, we liked him, and obviously all the friends, you know, that came out and stuff. It was just really cool, you know. And I think I was living with Neil Wood at the time. It was a little bit of a Steve Peat, trained hard, was fast, but liked to have a drink, or, you know, he liked to have fun as well. And I think once we paired Steve and Neil together, they became really great friends, and it was kind of cool to see those two guys in action, you know.
I bought a motocross bike out there and obviously used that for training, but fun training for me. Randy Lawrence was a mate of mine. He'd been racing mountain bikes for quite a few years, and he ended up being Jeremy McGrath's mechanic. McGrath was always like my kind of hero. He was Supercross legend, the king of like Supercross. But he was a really nice guy, and he was always had time for his fans and stuff like that. So I actually tried to emulate him a little bit throughout my career and just be good to the fans and all that sort of stuff. But luckily, hanging out in Southern California, you got to meet all those type of people. I was riding for Troy Lee, I was mates with Randy Lawrence, and we'd go to the Supercrosses and we'd hang out with those sort of people. So although they were kind of similar to me, they'd like to have a bit of a party at times, but they were really pro about the sport that they were doing and riding every day. And I just put myself in that sort of position where I could ride every day, but still enjoy myself. Nick Bayliss was a mate of mine. He came out to California and we sat down and decided to come up with a clothing company. So we were like, well, why don't we make some clothing and sell T-shirts and sell hoodies and stuff like that, like if we can fund a bit more stuff. And then that grew, and then we wanted to start a race team and call it the Royal Racing Team. Just to put, like, I felt from very early on that I was getting good deals, and I wanted to put a little bit back into the sport. Yeah, Royal Racing was born, I think, in the end of 98, 99 maybe, early 99. And it was really good. It was just something that you could put a bit more focus in and do other stuff. I've always made myself busy, maybe too busy, but I've always liked to do stuff and stay on top of stuff, I suppose.
And you went on to help out people like Mark Beaumont, Brendan Fairclough, Josh Bryson, some of the world's best riders that have won World Cups.
When you started racing at that age, Steve Peat, the name comes into your vocabulary, you know, pretty soon, pretty early on. You only have to meet him for 1 minute to realise that he's like the kindest, like, and most influential, not in like, just like I wanted to copy everything he did. I wanted to see how he put his gloves on. I wanted to see how he put his shoes on. I wanted to like sniff Olbersol because he sniffed Olbersol, you know. He's just like that. He's just with that in the nicest possible way. It was like just a bit of a dad figure to me back then, rather than like a sports idol, if you know what I mean. He was more of a dad idol. Like everything he did, I just wanted to sort of copy, apart from his whips. Even like now, when I think like the sport, a lot of riders back then and now just ride, and that's all they focus on is just training, riding, winning, which is what you absolutely have to do. But sometimes I think they're too tunnel vision. They don't look what's going to happen after, or what's going to happen around, and what's going to happen if that tunnel vision, that end result doesn't get you to where you want to go. There's no other paths, which I think he, without probably directly teaching me, taught me that a lot.
Yeah, I think the way that I always looked at it with Royal Racing and helping younger riders was, I was at the top of my game at World Cup now, and I was mates with the Nicos and the Kavoriks and Rennies and Gregs and all those sort of top riders. And I felt that if I could bring a younger rider into the Royal Racing Team, take them to a World Cup, introduce them to the Nicos and the Kavoriks and all those sort of riders, then when that rider was old enough to race World Cups, it wouldn't be as intimidating for them, and it'd be easier. They could, like, the way that I did it, moving to California, living with Mike King and realising what I needed to do to train and be at the top of my game, I was just trying to pass that sort of info onto those riders at a younger age so that they'd be better when they actually got to racing World Cups. So that was one of the focuses on it. I'd had quite a few second places at World Champs. I'd been trying for years. I think for 16 years I went to every World Champs thinking, this is it, I'm gonna win, now's the time kind of thing. But yeah, that one in Leger, 2004, my run up to that race was a little bit weird. I'd broke a collarbone 5 or 6 weeks prior, I think, maybe 6 weeks. And I'd had it plated, I'd had like laser surgery, I'd tried to come back as strong as I could, and I felt really good when I got to the race. I'd not got any race speed because I'd not been racing the week before, but I felt really good on track. Ended up qualifying fastest, being last man down the hill, and I probably came into that turn a little bit too hot. Track had deteriorated a little bit, and roots and stuff had come out. My back wheel kicked off a root and spanned me round. It wasn't until after the race that I knew that I was up a couple of seconds on Fabian, and I knew I'd got a good chance. I knew I was on a good run on that race, and that one actually hurt. It's probably one of the first times I ever climbed in the back. I was riding for Orange at the time. I climbed in the back of the truck and cried my eyes out, basically. And it hurt for a long time, probably hurt all the way until I won World Champs.
You tick it off at Canberra, maybe a place you weren't expecting to win?
As the story goes, that's the first World Championships that I actually went to where I'd not been able to train good before it. I'd got a bad back. I knew it was quite a physical track down bottom of the hill. And I went there thinking I was just making up the numbers. I actually felt quite bad about myself. I'm like, don't think I should really be doing this. I worked with Dr. Robert Copeland, who's a sports psychologist from Sheffield, and I told him before I was going out there, I don't feel like I should be going. I feel like I'm making up the numbers. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it. Just go out there and I'll drop you a note, like, just when you get out there. So we went there for 2 weeks, full sort of time. And he sent me this email, and the basics of it just kind of said, tick something off each day that you feel will make you feel better, that make you feel more confident. So I set this goal of loads of things to tick off. One of them was not drinking the night before the race, which Rob Copeland now laughs at, because like me and him obviously, like it was just one of my goals, and that was it. It was funny. I actually called him and went, Rob, this is one of them. But the whole time I was in Australia, just things were happening every day that were making me feel better, and this confidence just like grew up from actually getting that email from Rob. My confidence just grew and grew and grew. I knew I was really fast on the top part of that track. It was the rocky, gully, most technical bit, and I knew I could make up second and a half on that section. The rest of the track, in my qualifying run, I had a little slide out, like at the long bridge section, midway down. So I lost time there. So I didn't qualify that great. But I'd got everybody else's qualifying times from that bridge down to the bottom, all the guys that had gone fast. So Will Longdon was team manager at that time. Next morning, me and Will went up there, and he got the stopwatch out, and we went and ticked off every section, so I knew that I was as fast, if not faster, than all the fast guys down that bottom section of track. So my confidence was massive going into that finals of that race. 2 weeks before, I thought I was just making up the numbers, but the confidence grew there, and I nailed the top of the track. I knew Greg was really strong on the bottom of the track, and I'd probably lose a little bit to him there. And luckily, I made a second and a half up top, and I lost nearly all of it at the bottom, but managed to just pip Greg. I definitely think the sport has got a lot more professional. Bikes have progressed, riders have progressed, training's progressed, like it does in every sport, really. Nowadays, if there's one rider that starts winning races and he doesn't go to a party, he doesn't drink beer or anything, doesn't really, in my eyes, enjoy himself that much outside of just racing, then the other riders see that and they feel like they have to do the same sort of stuff. So it's a little bit harder in that sense, but I think downhills in general are quite a fun bunch. So the crew that we've got on the syndicate all have a laugh, but they're a lot more serious than I was back in the day about every aspect of getting faster. We've got 3 different riders. We've got Jackson, who is young and just mega confident. He doesn't really need that much. He's quite robust. We've got Laurie, who's like, he had a few health issues last year, so he was like up and down a little bit. So I'd try and help him a lot more on that side of it. And then Nina can lack confidence on a certain type of track, but I can see when that's coming, so I can take her to one side and like, come on, let's go work on this area or whatever. So yeah, they definitely still come to me if they need something, yeah. Peaty's products started 7 years ago now, was it? What would that be? 2017. I was running the SPS team, and I had a couple of riders on there, Tom Makin and Bryn Morgan, and I think they were doing shuttle runs one day, and Tom's tyre popped off the back of the truck. It just popped off the rim while it was on the back of the truck, and it covered the back of his truck in sealant, like the tailgate of his truck. And when he got to the top of the hill, I don't know what brand it was, but it had started to eat at the paint a little bit on the back of the truck. So it made Tom think. Tom was a water scientist. He did a lot of testing on water and stuff like that. So he was that sort of brain, and he was thinking like, why is this sealant so bad and so bad for the environment and all that kind of stuff. We want him. So him and Bryn then started chatting, and Bryn's a bit of a designer, and they came and approached me and said, look, we're thinking about doing some tyre sealant. Do you want to get involved? Do you want to like start a company with us and see where it goes? So obviously going back to the old Royal days and all that sort of thing, like I've always like tried to take a punt on stuff and see if something works, and I could see that being quite a good thing. So yeah, we went for it and started Peaty's products in 2017. By riders for riders. A lot of companies claim that, but yeah, we are true to our word on that. We employ people and ask them if they ride a bike before. It's probably the first question in the interview process. But yeah, for us, it's just we like to take a product and design it around what works for a rider, somebody that's out on the trail every day and using it. We're not just like designers that don't go and test our own stuff or anything. We really make sure and put a lot of effort into all the products to make them the best we can. So obviously the company is now 7 years old and growing a little bit, and it's quite cool for me to be able to put back into other teams. We've got a really good list of World Cup teams now that use our products and support us out of the races, and that's a massive part for me. We can go to any one of those teams and ask them what they like about the products, what they think we should change, what products they would like to see next. And that's the forefront of it. World Cup racing is the forefront of it. So for us at Peaty's to be able to have like World Cup teams there is absolutely awesome.
Cheers, Steve. Good to catch up, and thanks for showing us around the woods.
Yep, classic Steel City downhill track here. I actually got revamped a couple of years ago from the money from the race. So all the money over the years has gone back into building the trails in here. So it's awesome to have these sort of trails on our doorstep.
Yeah, amazing. And you're back to the day job looking after the World Cup team then?
I am back to syndicate duties, getting ready. Season's going to kick off pretty soon, so ramping it up, ready for Fort Bill.
Well, good luck. Hope it goes well.
Cheers, Paul.